viewers. In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about SQL. SQL in full is structured query language. Structured query language is used to query databases. Apart from querying databases, it is also used for inserting values into the database, deleting values from database, updating the database, and also for general management of the database. Now, databases are very important in the storage of data for websites. Databases, they are used together with back-end languages, server-end languages, server-side languages, such as a Python program, Python frameworks like Django and Flask. Not only Django and Flask, but also PHP and also Java script framework known as Node JavaScript. Now, not forgetting HTML, CSS3, which are essential for websites to run. Now, in this project, we are going to concentrate on mySQL, and we are going to use Linux terminal or Linux command line to write our code, to type our code, create our code, and run it. Now, before we begin, you must ensure that you've installed mySQL in your system. Now, first, we are going to access mySQL. MySQL access code is here. Now, you just type mySQL, then spacing, then after spacing a small dash, then U, spacing, then you type the name of type the username of the MySQL. Type the username of your MySQL. So for me, the username for MySQL, my MySQL is Debian. It's Debian dash sys. Sorry. Debian dash sys, then small dash main. That is the username for my SQL. After that, just spacing, then type small dash, then P. So small letter P. That one stands for a password. So this code, when we run it, then it will prompt us to enter the password. So let's do so. Now, the password that I'm going to write here is somehow a bit long, so you'll be patient with me, though it will not be visible. Now, I'm writing the password. I beg you to be patient. Be patient with me. Be patient. I'm about to complete. I'm done. So let me press enter. Now in the right environment of my SQL. Now the next thing that we are going to do is that we are going to create our first database. So to create our first database, we use this command, create database. What is the name of our database? We can give it the name, let's give it the name psychology. Psychology database. Psychology psychology database underscore psychology database. Remember, we are using underscores, writing names of databases. Then at the end of this statement, we have to now put the semicolon. So semicolons are put at the end of statements in mySQL. Now, in mySQL, you find that words like create, database, they are not case sensitive. You can use uppercase or lowercase. Now, we have created our database known as psychology database. Now, the next thing is that we have to activate it so that the system can recognize this database. So press enter. Now the system has recognized it as our database. Now, after the system recognizing it as our database, we have also to get the permission to use the database. So the code for getting the permission is this: use our database, whose name is psychology. Psychology database underscore psychology database. So that code is for granting us the permission to use the database in our program. It's not complete, so we have to put the semicolon to mark the end of that statement. So use psychology database. Now, the system has not recognized our seeking of the permission, so we have to run that code by pressing enter. Now the system is now aware, and it has granted us the permission to use the database. Next thing is we are going to create a table. You can create as many tables as you can in this database, because already we have the permission. But for our case, we are going to create just one table for demonstration purposes. Now, for creating the table, just type create table. Now, after typing create table, which table are we going to create? We can give it the name. Students. So students database, students table. So underscore, then table. Now this table, in this students table, is going to have we're going to create 3 columns. One for storing the IDs of the students, the second column for storing the names of the students, and the third and last column for storing the email addresses of the students. Now, we are going to type the parentheses, so spacing, then parentheses, going to type parentheses. Now inside the parentheses, okay, I'll create the last the closing one later. So inside the parentheses is where we have three columns. Now in the first column, we have the ID. The ID. Now the IDs of the students. Now the IDs are integers. The IDs are integers. IDs are integers. And these integers, they auto increment. They auto increment. They auto increment. They auto increment. Remember, we are using an underscore here. So what does that mean, auto increment? It means that these IDs, they update themselves. You don't have to adjust. You don't have to do the increment manually. The increment is automatic. That is what we mean by auto increment. That a given auto increment column gets the next available integer automatically. Now after that, spacing, type spacing, then primary key, primary key, primary key. So what does the term primary key imply? Primary key imply that this column, which is the first column, will be used as a reference column for manipulation of values in this table, or for retrieving values, or retrieving the values in this table later in our future programs that we shall be creating still in the same database. Now we have done this. We need now to mark the end of that column with a comma. Now that is the first column. Now to move to the next column, we shall press enter to move to the next column, pressing enter. So the next column, which is the second column, is for name. So it can be names, or it can be name. In our case, let us use name. Then after that, we type var character, var character. Now var character, these we are trying to what we are trying to create is the length of the field. That is the maximum number of characters that each name is supposed to have. Now in this case, we want each name to have a maximum number of 224 characters. Now let's type the parentheses. Now inside the parentheses, we are going to type the maximum number of characters that we want each name to have, which is 224. Now spacing, then type not null, not null, not null. So a given field in that column is not null. What does the term null mean? Null means missing. So that means that null is not 0. So when you hear of null is not 0, null means missing. So to mark the end of that column, we use a comma to indicate the end of that column. Now let's now move to the third and last column. Now let's press enter. So the third and last column is for email. Email, then var character, then spacing. We can specify now the number of characters that we want each email address to have. We can give it 226. So what this implies is that each email address is going to have a maximum number of 226 characters. Then spacing, not null, not null. Because this is our last column, there is no need of putting a comma there. There's no need of putting a comma there because we've come to the end. We've come to the end. Now, what we do to show that we've come to the end is closing. So we close with that parenthesis, and because the whole of this is a statement, a compound statement, so it has also to end with a semicolon. I hope everything is okay. Let's inspect this code to see that everything is going well. Everything is alright. ID, integer, auto increment, primary key is alright. Name, var, character, not null. Email, var 226, not null. So we've created the table. The table is called students table. Yeah, so it is okay. So let's run the code. Now we've successfully created our table called students table. Now this table has got 3 columns. The first column, of course, holding the IDs. Then the second column holding the names of the students, and the third column holding the email addresses of the students. So the second column has a header whose name is name. The third column and the last column has the header whose name is email. And of course, the first column has also a header whose name is ID. Now, what we are going to do is that we are going now to insert values. We want to insert values into the table that we've created. We want to insert the names of the students and the email addresses of the students in the table, students table that we've created. So this is a simple, here is a simple code. Insert into our table. What is the name of our table? The name of our table is students table. So underscore students table. So insert into students table, spacing, parenthesis, Now let's get into the parentheses. We want to insert the names, the name. So the name of each student, insert the name of each student in that table. Then spacing. Also insert the email address. The email address for each student in that table. Now where are these names and these email addresses? Okay, the names and email addresses are the values. They are the values that we want to insert. They are the values that we want to insert in our table. Okay, now press enter to insert the values. Press enter to insert the values. Now let's begin with the values in the second row, because the first row is for headers. Now the insertion of values now begins from the second row. So the second row is occupied by Tony Mulati. Now let's start by typing the parentheses. Now inside the parentheses, let's type the name Tony Mulati. Tony Mulati. Remember, the name Tony Mulati is embedded in the single quotes, then comma. So that is the second column of our second row. Now let's move now to the third column, but still in the second row. So in the third column is where we are going to type the email address for Tony. So let's type the email address for Tony. So single quote, then email address, Tony Mulati, 79 at gmail.com. Let's close that single quote. So that is the email address for Tony Mulati, which is in the second row in the third column. Now having done that, this is just the second row. So we need to proceed now to the third and last row. So to show that we are still moving on, we need to put there a comma. Then press enter. When we press enter, we get now to the third column. So the third column has another student. Sorry, it's not the third column, but third row, because this is the second row. Now we are moving to the third row. Sorry for that error. So we are in the third row. Now in the third row is where we're going to have our next student. So we type parentheses, then inside the parentheses we type now the name of the student, still now in the second column of the third row. Now the name of the student is Beryl. Beryl uh, Brown. Beryl Brown. Then that single quote. Then after the single quote is that comma. Now spacing. While still in the same third row, we are now moving. In the third column. We are moving in the third column. So in the third column, we are going to type the email address for Beryl Brown. So the email address for her, Beryl Brown at yahoo.com. Now, sorry, we've forgotten yahoo.com. Then that single quote. Now, in this table of ours, we've successfully now inserted the values. In the second row, we inserted Tony Mulati in the second column. Then while still in the same second row, we inserted the email address tonymulati79@gmail.com, but now in the last column, which is column 3. Then we moved to the next column. We moved to the next row. The next row, which is row number 3, occupied by Beryl Brown. Now the name Beryl Brown is written in the second column of the third row. Then the email address for Beryl Brown is written in the third column of the third row. Now, having typed that, remember the whole of this is a statement. All of this is a statement. So to mark the end of this statement, what we do is that we type semicolon to indicate that we've come to the end of that statement. Now let's inspect our code to ensure that everything is all right. I hope everything is all right. Now let's run the code. Queries okay. 2 rows affected. Records 2. Duplicate 0. There are no duplicates. Warning 0. So meaning that everything is fine. So our table is okay. Here we've created the last 2 rows, row number 2 and row number 3. Row number 2 having having its first column with the name Tony Mulati, and the next column which is the third column, occupied by the email address Tony Mulati 79 at gmail.com. Then here I've said Tony Mulati now is occupying the second column of the second row. Then down here in the next row, Beryl Brown occupying the second column of the third row. Then Beryl Brown at yahoo.com occupying the third column of the third row. Now, having successfully created that table, we can now see what is inside the table. What is inside the table? We can get to see the total number of all. We can be able to see all the rows and columns in that table. So we use this command. Select, then spacing, then asterisk, that star, that star, spelling, asterisk. So select that star or asterisk, it means all, select all. So select all rows and columns from which table? From which table? From the table called students table. Students table underscore students table. Now that statement, to mark its end, we put there a semicolon. Now we can run the code so that we are able to see the whole table. Let's run the code by pressing enter. Now we are able to see our table. Our table has now been created successfully. You can see it is successfully created. You can see the first column for IDs, the second column for the name of each student, and the third column email with the email addresses for each student. So that marks the end of our lesson for today. My name is Tony Wanjala Mulati. Looking forward to meet you in other coming lessons. Thank you.